Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today I thought we'd do a little bit of a post-mortem on the Operation Winter event of 2021. I understand it hasn't finished yet, it's basically on its last star, but at the same time it is pretty much over. And the additional things that we're going to get for the 12 star don't really change my opinions on the event overall. Mainly when it comes to these events, the challenge ones, all I can say is that they're so much more fun than the Build-A-Bear ones. They go over a longer period of time, you have the basic set of challenges to follow, and also at the same time, you don't have to focus on time invested in the game. Instead, you can focus on general challenges. So it's more based around little areas of skill that you have instead of just overall time. So every time I play one of these challenge events, I realize how fun they are compared to a lot of the other events that are in War Thunder, just because they have kept the same structure for many years and everything is attainable in one way or another. So for me, these events always stand out to be the best in the calendar when it comes to the winter event and when it comes to the summer event. The vehicles in the event, I think, are all pretty decent picks, apart from the MiG-23. My opinions of them haven't changed too much since, we did the critique video. The C-202 is still going to be a really good starter aircraft for a lot of people when it comes to Italy. It's going to be a really good trainer aircraft, basically, in order to learn different playstyles when it comes to air. The AC-1 is actually a little bit more tanky than I thought it would be. Its upper glacis armor is actually really good, even against stuff like 75mm. Its turret lets it down when it comes to the armor department, but it's still pretty decent at stopping shots. The High-End Army is a pretty decent machine, being a Yugumo. Yugumos are always great, and being a premium means that it's just got that extra little pizzazz. It reminds me a lot of the Udachi, which also is a fantastic event vehicle. Then the AGS is part of now a really good lineup, really good reload, good thermals, and can go hull down. So overall going to be a very fun vehicle for people when it comes to America. Going to fit in those lineups really well and also has a lot of support around them. The MPK, the Project 201K, is also really good. Not as good as the Tech Tree one, but you don't want it to be. You want it to be slightly worse, just because you don't want people to only have access to a better vehicle over a very short amount of time. It has the 225s and 145 instead of 425s, so it's a little bit better at longer range, but it's worse at shorter range. And since the majority of the time you're going to be using this at the shorter range, therefore it's not as good. So overall, for these vehicles, I think most of them are going to fit in the meta pretty well and generally are going to be quite fun. I also like the fact that they're saying when it comes to the minors, they get the premiums, Italy, Japan, and also pseudo-Britain, whereas the high-tier rewards go to the three major ones, the USSR, Britain, and Germany. This has been, America and Germany. This has been the standard way of doing things for an incredibly long time when it comes to the game, and I'm fine with it. I think it works pretty well. The only problem with these 6 vehicles is the MiG-23MF, and the reason why this is a problem is the same reason why the F4F early was a problem, the same reason why the Su-22 is a problem, the same reason why the Leopard 2PL is a problem. All of these vehicles drastically change the win rates and the metas around them when they are released, making basically all the stats that you get for about a week or 2 or 3 completely useless when it comes to the area, because every person that I know which plays a decent amount of top-tier jets and normally moves around nations, following metas and trying different things, is playing the vehicles to donk on the MiG-23MF right now. Because there's going to be a lot of people, whether they are experienced or inexperienced, doesn't matter, they're going to be stock grinding the MiG-23MF. It might be people's first jet. It might be the fact, that they're not going to be used to it. But at the same time, it's a vehicle which is going to get annihilated by a bunch of high-tier Soviet machines and also high-tier American ones. And it doesn't have a lot of countermeasures. so it's just going to get eaten alive for 1 or 2 weeks, meaning that all of the information that you get from a statistical point of view can be thrown out of the window because of this addition to the game. And that's the problem when it comes to vehicles like this, when it comes to high-tier event vehicles. It's something we saw even with something like the M60 AMBT. It's very hard to find players with the M60 AMBT or even the Macarva Mark III which have positive win rates in it, because a lot of them stock grinded them when they were added to the game, and at that point, once again, the more experienced players who play around those BRs just played other nations to fight against them because it would be easy to, and you get a lot of research and a lot of SL beating up people who are stock grinding them and also may not have full lineups. The same thing's happening with the MiG-23 MF. And also, at the same time, since they're going to add another MiG-23 to the German tech tree, probably in the next update, it's not as appealing to a lot of people to play because, well, patience is a virtue. So, the other 5 vehicles are great, but the MiG-23 is once again showing an issue with this system. When it comes to how everything is set up, I think it would have been much better to have around about a 9.0 plane, or an 8.0 plane, even if it was an event vehicle. I think a lot more people would have been interested in a vehicle like that, especially if it was a premium, maybe a ME-262, maybe the Night Fighter version of it. That would have been kind of interesting to see, but instead you just get something which is going to get beaten up over and over and over and over again, and will only really come to fruition as a vehicle maybe 6 months down the line when people have moved on to beating up whatever the next thing is. The place where I think the team behind the event has really outdone themselves is with the extra stuff. So the decals are fantastic. The female warriors, I think, are really awesome. All of them are absolutely wonderful to look at and will fit on many vehicles. It reminds me of some of the previous challenge events we've had and the collections that have been available. One of the problems, though, with the decals still persists, and this has been an issue for a few years, and it looks like this has become a standard when it comes to the events, and that is you can get duplicate decals. Now, this isn't really an issue on console because you can just trade your decals one-to-one with other things, but when it comes to PC, you have to use the market in order to be able to trade to get all of the decals possible, or you just have a bunch of duplicates on your account. And for me personally, I'm not a huge fan of that. I don't really like the fact that that exists. I have never enjoyed the idea of being able to get duplicates, and it just means that the whole experience kind of has a little bit of a shadow over it. If you grind the whole event and you complete everything, I think you should be able to get everything in the event, and whether you use the market or not. I know that there is a monetary incentive for Guardian to push people towards the market, but from my point of view, from a personal point of view, I don't like looking at the monetary incentive. That's only when we have a look at it from other people's opinions. So for me, it just hurts a little bit that I can't grind the whole event and just get everything. Instead, I'm in this weird doldrums where I have to use the market to be able to get stuff, and I'm just hoping that this idea doesn't spread to other areas. Obviously, the top tier vehicles when it comes to the event are coupons, so people can choose whether to take them or whether to sell them. But at the same time, if you grind the amount of stars, they are guaranteed for you, basically. Whereas the decals just aren't, which sucks as a general idea. The decorations for ground forces are really nice. All of them look beautiful. They all fit very well. They're not too big. They're not too ridiculous. Overall, quite nice. And they've once again outdone themselves when it comes to the naval stuff. If you haven't got the snowmobile for the coastal fleet, I highly recommend it because it looks absolutely ridiculous, especially on the smaller boats. It looks wonderful. The decorations that they have actually put out when it comes to the game in general have been fantastic for naval. We had the Sherman DD tank, we had the Willys Jeep, now we have this snowmobile and also the Duck. All of these are just really nice and really awesome to look at. And I hope they expand the ideas and into the future. I really do. The snowmobile as well, the only critique I'd have of it is that the propeller doesn't spin, which is sad. It's a stationary vehicle. I understand why, because obviously it's a vehicle which isn't moving, it's kind of sat on your ship, but at the same time, there is a bunch of other animated decorations which exist for naval, like the snowman and also the deer. So I think the ideas could be expanded to the snowmobile. Now, the challenges themselves haven't really changed from the last set, and generally I thought they were okay. The tanker star now takes more time to do than the other two, so the balance of them is a little bit off, but that might just be because I feel like, at least for me, I'm a better pilot and naval player than I am a tanker, so maybe other people may have different experiences, but for me, I'm kind of waiting on finishing the tanker task instead of completing, the pilot and the naval one. The naval one normally takes about 4 to 5 games at most, and the only thing which is a little bit of an issue with it is the win a naval battle in first place. I feel like they could maybe change that to just be first place in a naval battle, because it promotes people to basically just play the same stuff over and over and over again. Like, I just play my 3-0 US lineup and and just play that over and over and do well in it. The M802 is still a ridiculous machine for 3.3. I don't understand why it stays at its BR and also has its spawn. Basically, the M802 gets a coastal spawn instead of a blue water spawn. If it was given the blue water spawn, I think it would be completely fine. It would be similar to what happened with the K2, where once they changed the spawns, it's stopped just annihilating the meta. But the M802 being a premium and also being able to annihilate everything is a little bit of a step too far, in my opinion. The 3.0 American lineup works really well. There are a bunch of other lineups which are also incredibly fun when it comes to around those BRs. I much prefer Coastal to Blue Water. It's just so much more fast-paced and so much more interesting instead of just sitting there and shooting over and over and over again, hoping for an ammo rack. Doing the pilot and the tanker star at the same time has still worked pretty well for me. I've been moving around lineups. When I've had not a ton of time, I've been doing 3-7 Italy. Basically, Enlisted decided to do Twitch drops over the Christmas period, so I was streaming that 12 hours a day, and then also I was doing my War Thunder challenges on top of that, and I got getting all the stars done in under 4 hours during that period. And what I was doing 3.0 American Naval with the Thunderbolt and the other PTs. Then I was doing 3.7 Italy in ground, where I ran the Panzer IV-G, the M4A4, and the Semavente 1953 with the Reggiani 2002, and also another plane, the SM91. And it worked really well. I was able to get matches with 10 to 11 to 12 kills, and I was able to get kills on a cap. I was able to get, basically the 6 kills and the overall kills, and it worked really, really well. And the only issue with the lineup is the Reggiani isn't that strong compared to a lot of other planes around the place, but it still can get the 4 kills. The engine overheats a lot in it, which is a bit of a problem, but it can deal with it. When I had a little bit more time, I played 6.7 America, 5.3 Germany, a little bit of 7.3 Soviet. There's a bunch of really cool BRs around the place, which are pretty fun to play. I even played a little bit of high tiers, but I don't think I'm going to touch that for a while because of the AGS edition. But generally, when it comes to those vehicles and when it comes to the stars, I didn't really have too much of an issue with them. I think, taking 4 hours for the 3 stars every 2 days when I was doing it at maximum efficiency is completely fine. Normally it was taking me around 6 hours to do all of them, or 7 hours, and I think once again that's okay, at least for a person like me. That might be a little bit too much for others, which I think is completely fine, especially over the Christmas period, but then you can focus on one of the stars, maybe get it done in 1 or 2 hours every 2 days, which once again is much better than what we've seen in the past when it comes to the Build-A-Bear events. There's also addition where you can do certain parts of the stars with older event vehicles. I never took advantage of this, but I do think it's a really cool idea. And I hope they keep it, I hope they continue with it, and I hope there was a lot of people who actually completed it, because I thought generally it was a nice little thing. If you wanted to finish off a star and you had one of them to do, you could do it, right? And I thought that would be really cool. Overall, this event was really nice. It was a fun event, and it was one which, even under time constraints from my point of view, I was able to get done and finished and, have a decent time with it, and continue with the Battle Pass stuff, and dailies, and specials, and everything else going on. So I think generally it's not too shabby. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Professor X 1718, Orange Tail, Sakoshi Tiger, BRFC 15, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe A, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, and then Kyle Kin, Bareen, Lafouche, and also Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.